All right, so now we're looking at chapter 3, the how to code and test a Windows Form application. This is when you can finally start saying that you're taking a programming class. So what I've got here is it's a new day for me. Might not be a new day for you, but it's a new day for me. I've got Visual Studio up and running, and I'm about to go into the solution file I was working on before. You can tell it's a solution file because my solution file, because it doesn't look anything as beautiful as this particular solution file. So I'll remind you guys, or tell you guys, that if you did download that what is it, the zip file, the compressed file I left for you on this in this content section right there. If you basically download that thing and then you unzip it, you do actually have access in a couple ways. I know right now anyway, I would you could, for example, go into book applications chapter 2, and you'd have this file, which would look much more beautiful than this file. Or another option might be to go into the solutions, exercise solutions, and grab the solution for chapter 2, which is right there. I suspect as we start getting further in, there's going to be a divergence of the two. Right now, those two directories are almost identical, but anyway. All right, so that's enough of that. So let's go ahead and let us look at the tutorial. So it said copy the open. Okay, so question 1 is probably a good practice. So what they're kind of saying at this point is over here. Is it one further up? No, it can't be one further up. I'm trying to find out where actually I put my stuff. So I put my stuff right there. So there's invoice total. That is the fabulous solution that I currently have. Well, as we're going to start monkeying around with the code, they're basically suggesting that we can copy, effectively version it. We're going to go from this version to the next version. So chapter 2's version to chapter 3 version. So, and then work into chapter 3. It makes sense. You should always have a backup of what you're doing. So I'm going to go copy, I'm going to go paste, and there's my copy. And this one I'm going to change to chapter 3. All right, that's what I'm going to do there. And now, because I've just changed that to chapter 3, it'd be probably a good idea to get out of this one. So I'm going to just close my solution. I'm going to open a project. I'm going to leave, student download. And now I'm going to go into here and grab this guy. All right. Pretty well the same thing, but now I'm working on this version, and I can leave that other version alone in case I make a mistake. Much later, I hope, we'll be talking about source version control and stuff like that. But for now, that's good enough for now. Right, so that's kind of what that is. And so number 1 was to make a copy of it. Number 2 was to open it. Number 3, display the invoice total form in Form Designer. We kind of are right there. I'm noticing it's called invoice total, not invoice application. So I wonder if I made a mistake earlier on, but that's fine. Double click on the calculate button to open the code editor. Now, before I do that, let's run it and remind us where we are with this thing. So right now, we've got ourselves a form that is pretty intelligent. You know, it's pretty intelligent. It can do stuff. But right now, if I click on calculate, it doesn't do anything. If I click on exit, it doesn't do anything. The only buttons that kind of do anything are up here. And we're going to do that. And so now what I want to do is I want to add code to the calculate button. So I'm going to add the code to the calculate button. Now notice when I double click on the calculate button, right there, it's got now code ready to go for when the button is clicked, which is pretty darn cool. When the button is clicked. We're going to talk more about these things later, but for now. Now, it does say to put the code in from figure 3.6. And of course, I don't have anything for you for figure 3.6 to show. So let's just, I can go here now. I put the slides out. Let's see if I can quickly find that code that they're talking about in figure 3.6. That's not it. Come on, this is where I should have checked. Okay, we're right about there, by the way, in the slides. And so No. Well, I'm pretty sure. I mean, this is the code I remember seeing for figure 3-6. Now let me just go ahead and check that in the book to make sure. Yeah. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type some of this code now live, and then I'm going to pause the video and then finish it. All right. That's what I'm going to do. So, but I do want to sort of demonstrate some of these ideas in here. So we're in the void. So first of all, I'm going to go and type decimal. Now notice right away, as soon as I start typing, we get a little bit of the IntelliSense thing that I was talking about in the book. And so at this point, it's kind of trying to help me out. Now we got a lot of help with that in Python. I'm going to hit the tab button, and there's decimal. Decimal's now in place. At this point, I'm going to type in a variable name called subtotal. The book is assuming you might not know what a variable is. Ooh, watch, I'll talk about that in a minute. The book is it's basically thinking you don't necessarily know what a variable is. I'm assuming you do because you took the fundamentals of programming class. And so I'm going to tell you that decimal is a type, and then subtotal will be the variable name. Now notice that right away, we have our friends in Visual Studio telling us that, just so you know, you have a syntax error. Like right away, it's hinting at that. As soon as I push the space button and separate those two things, it goes away. So there we got subtotal, and I'm going to say is equal to, and notice now again the squiggly mark's gone away because it makes sense. It's going, aha, you're grabbing a piece of memory, you're calling it subtotal, and now you're waiting for something. And I said it's equal to. I can't believe I said that. It's not so much the subtotal is equal to something. I'm saying at this point, the subtotal is assigned a value. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign it. This one's going to be a little bit gross to try and explain right now, but I'm going to go the convert class to decimal, which again I could have done, and I'm going to open parentheses, and then now here I got to know what I actually called it. Ripple text. Oh, here's where, yep. Deviating from the solution file might not have been the smartest thing because now I'm not sure what do I call it. I just call it sub. Oh, no, it's a subtotal variable. All right, so now at this point, we're probably going to see me pause and quickly backpedal and check on the names of some of my objects. So I'll talk to you in a few seconds. All right, so I've completely reconsidered my plan. The thing is, when I created my form, I didn't really name it the same way that the book was naming their objects. And if I'm actually going to look at the code in the book and try and bring it into my code, it's going to get confusing. It's confusing for me. It's going to be definitely confusing for you. So what I decided to do is I'm going to backpedal and just run off the solution of the previous chapter. And realistically, I might be doing that for the rest of the course because one thing that's very important to me is I want you to be able to follow along. And so you might not be able to follow along if you know Grant's gone off crazy and changed names of things and all that. So let's just stick with the book again as a way for you guys to repeat on your own. So I'm going to go and open the project or solution. And as I said, probably the better way to do that is you take the unzipped student download, go to the book applications, go to chapter 2 because we're in chapter 3, and then go and open up this guy, and you get that beautiful form. All right, and it'll probably look like that the first time you open it. All right, and again, you know, this guy doesn't really have anything that I don't have other than just being a lot cooler looking. All right, so let's go ahead now and double click on this, and we'll get a lot closer to the actual the way the book looks, which is going to be kind of like that. All right, so I'm going to be basically doing this line right there, the decimal subtotal line. So I'm going to go decimal, and again, IntelliSense pops up and says, "Hey, can I help you?" I say, "Sure, that sounds great." So I'm going to go decimal. I hit the space this time. Subtotal, and I'm going to hit the space this time is assigned, and like a real professional, convert right dot to decimal. See how this thing is really helping me out. TXT. Now this is finally, see, this is what I wanted to get to. I wanted you to see that this environment knows what the options are. And had I actually remembered what my options were, it would have been pretty cool. So anyway, so I'm going to say here that this is the option here, if you look at the book, anyways, it's the subtotal dot txt text, I should say. And now the only thing left is the squiggle at the end, and all statements in C# have a semicolon. All right, and is that not right? Oh, capital T. Remember, it's case sensitive. Capital T. All right, cool. Now let's talk a little bit about what this is doing. What this is doing is it's taking the text from subtotal, converting it to a decimal format, and then assigning it to subtotal. Just a variable in memory. That's all that thing's doing. All right. Well, they'll say that C# later on. They'll say that C# is a strongly typed language. That basically means that you don't get a lot of conversions for free in C#. In Python, you saw that happening all the time. Things are being converted from one data type to another, sometimes to our detriment. In this case, if I want to, the text fields in our form are going to be basically strings. And a string, I can't add anything to a string, right? Unless I add more characters. I can't add anything to a string. So it's got to be numeric. And so there's some methods out there that are used to convert things from one type to another. And all these methods are inside of one particular object called convert. So convert's an object that's got a bunch of conversion methods. And actually, I think that's about as much as I want to get to here, because we're definitely going to be hitting this later. But I just wanted you to kind of get some sense to what's going on here. I'm creating a variable that's in decimal format. It's going to take a string from the form, and it's going to convert it to decimal and assign it to there. So that's what's going on with that particular thing. All right, next line is the discount percent. So I'm going to go decimal, and then it's going to be another variable here called discount per cent, and that's going to be assigned 0M. And we'll talk about the M later, but for now you need it. All right, so the business logic in this code is such that if the subtotal's a certain amount, they get a certain discount. So basically, if it's greater than or equal to 500, they get 20%. If it's between 250 and 500, slightly less, then they get 15%. If it's greater than 100 and less than 250, they get 10%. All right. So basically, the more money they spend, the more of a discount they get. That's the business logic to understand here. So, but to demonstrate the tool a little bit, and not necessarily have you guys struggle with my code, I'm going to go if, excuse me, if the subtotal. So again, the subtotal, notice it now exists in IntelliSense because this thing knows that, hey, Grant created a variable here. Maybe he means subtotal here. So again, helping us out. Not even close to what we were getting when we were in Python land. If it's greater than or equal to 500, also notice, by the way, that the parentheses kind of came out there, which is pretty cool, right? I'm going to hit enter. And actually, I forgot a key thing. So let me go backspace over all of that and try that again. If, all right, this was important, the snippet idea. So if there is a whole like format of code, a snippet, and if I go and I hit tab twice, what it does is it fills in some of the stuff for me. It fills in some of the punctuations. Notice now I'm getting the braces, which is when I realized I made a mistake before. Now I know why. I don't have to actually have to manually put the braces in. I can. I could have recovered from my previous demonstration, but no, I think it's better to use the code snippets. So it's basically saying if it's true, do this. Now the part that's true, I'm going to redo that one. That's basically the subtotal. The subtotal is greater than or equal to 500. And that is not greater than or equal to. That is my fingers not being in the right spot. Greater than or equal to. If it's greater than or equal to 500, then it's going to do this stuff. And notice, by the way, it's automatically indenting. The book does have a section there about adding using spaces and indenting to make your code more readable. That is actually pretty important. All right, so now if this is the case, then the discount percent is going to be assigned I would go 0.2n. I know the book's not doing that, but I would do that. And that's a semicolon. All right. So if it's that, then great. Otherwise, else, and notice again, we got another code snippet coming up. So it's going to say, oh, can I help you like with the format? I'm going to say, yes, you can help me with the format by going tab. So anyway, so now I got some more code coming in. So else, but this time it's going to be an else if the subtotal is greater than or equal to 250. And boy, we're going to have so much fun with these operators as we move forward in this. And the subtotal is less than 500. So if that is true, then the discount percent is going to be assigned 0.15m. All right, that looks good. Way to go. I'm very happy with that. Hit the space again. And I'm going to go else. And once again, it moves off and it gives me a nice little code snippet. And this one here is the other one. Okay, whatever. I don't want to start critiquing the style of this code. I'll just keep going. 100. So if it's basically between 100 and the subtotal is less than 250. All right, so we get that. And so at this point now, the discount percent is going to be assigned 0.1m. Good deal. So we got ourselves a nice little control structure there. That's wonderful. We got ourselves the if. I'm going to hit the enter there, and I think that's about it. Notice, by the way, these things can be collapsed if you want to kind of, hide some code at this point, right? I don't feel a need to do that. So now is if we're going back here, there is a little bit of this stuff happening here, which is straight calculations. I'm going to pause the video and then talk about it. All right, so let me pause. All right, so hopefully you were doing this along and you had some fun moments there. So I would suggest that this, okay, maybe from here down, this isn't too hard for your Python minds to kind of get a grip on. You've got yourself a variable, you've got yourself subtotals. All this stuff is pretty, it's missing some semicolons. Look at that. All right, and this is subtotal. Jeez Louise. Anyway, all right, so all that would have caused problems. But anyway, so that's pretty cool. And then down here, these two guys, we're creating variables and we are doing some math in there. That's great. So what becomes interesting to, and this is all C#, and it also translates very nicely to Python. This is where it gets to get back to being interesting, and we got to remind ourselves that we're actually working in Visual Studio now, and even like the .NET framework. Because what's happening here is text discount percent. Well, text discount percent. That is this field right there. That's what that field is. And so it's basically saying, I would like you to take the text property of that field, all right, and then assign it the variable discount percent, where it converts it to a string. So discount percent is up here. It's getting assigned something, and then we're asking that variable to convert itself to basically text. And we'll understand what some of these strings are afterwards, but these are format strings. So then down here, this guy's going discount amount. So discount amount is this field there, and discount amount, it's got a property called text. And what are we assigning it? Well, we're assigning it the this variable here, but it's going to use its own method to convert it to a string, currency. And then down here, by the way, that's percentage of currency, as C is. And then down here with the total, it's basically saying, okay, take that text property and convert it to currency. So that's kind of the cool thing that's going on there. I know there's more code to this, but let's run it now anyway and see this thing work. And actually, remember what I said before, probably a good strategy to build first. So you build it, see what's happening. Okay, you build clean. I love that. So now if I run it, up it goes. that is the thing, isn't it? That is the program. Okay, so let's give it if it's greater than 500, let's give it a 600, and then tab off and go calculate. Boom. Now we've actually got ourselves a living program. It looks great. Let's go ahead and make it small. So we know this should have been 20%. Let's make it 260. We're going to test it here. Boom. Now 15%. Let's make it 105. Boom. Now it's 10%. Let's make it 10. And now they don't get no discount at all. All right. Now the exit button still isn't doing anything, and that's what we're just about to fix. So let's go over back into here. And how do we get the code for the exit button? What I would do is I would basically go over here and double click now on the exit button. Here's the exit button, and it's the code behind that. And I could have, well, I'll just shut up. Double clicking on the exit button was good, because what it did is it created this sort of event. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some really hard code to do, which is, I'm just kidding when I'm saying this, but the really hard code is close. You know, one other thing, by the way, I forgot to do is I forgot to put the focus, and that's kind of important too. So let's do that as well. So after it's finished calculating the subtotal, did you notice that what it did is it the focus didn't go where I wanted it to go. So let me just put this in here first of all. I'm going to say text subtotal. So take the subtotal basically and go focus, and we'll know much more about what that means later. But for now, let me go back to my exit button. The exit button, a very interesting piece of code, which we'll understand. This means basically the application in this case. So this, close it. So close this is what this is saying. So now let's go ahead and build again and make sure that this thing actually builds properly. It does. Awesome. Let's run it again. And let's put in some number. And now I'm going to go and hit the calculate button. And what's going on here is that, first of all, the focus comes back up to here. Right. Last time when I clicked on calculate, the focus stayed on calculate. So it makes sense at this form. It's gonna, I'm gonna try 300. Oh, well, I wonder what 400 would be like. And then I click the calculate button, and the focus goes back up to the to there. Did I put 300 again? 400 is what I meant to. 400. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So that's what the focus is doing. It's basically saying, hey, can you bring focus back up to the subtotal? This guy, the exit, now actually has power. Ready to watch this? Boom, exit finishes, and off it goes. All right. Now that was a lot of really neat description, and that's probably enough for this particular video. And all we really did is I just did basically 3. I did 4, which basically said to put the exit code in. I tell you what, I will do 5, which is showing the errors. Now, because I'm so awesome, and realistically, I'm not particularly awesome, but I'm paying attention to all the squiggle marks, I don't actually have any syntax errors. But if I want to see syntax errors, I can either go Control E or I can look at the error list. There aren't any syntax errors, but later in this lab, we will actually create syntax errors. So I'm not as worried about that. But that's how you can look at the errors. I don't see any reason why I'd want to look at the error list if this thing actually ran cleanly, right? I mean, this is the moment I would know if there are errors. All right. So anyway, let's leave that. It says number 6, press 5 to run and build. You notice I keep clicking on this, but that's just habit. Pressing F5 is fine. I've entered number 7, says enter numerical values, and click the calculate and the enter keys and all that. I actually didn't click the enter key, so let's do that one. So I'm going to hit 600. I hit the enter key, and look at that. It works just great. All right. So basically, clicking and entering are like the same. We can go a little bit further with number 8. Number 8 basically says to put some invalid stuff in here. So if we go X and then I hit the enter button, boom, it explodes. Now, so far there's sort of 2 types of errors that we're now seeing. One is a syntax error, and that's when you see the red squigglies in the error list, and we'll talk more about syntax errors later this lab. And then what we're seeing here is a runtime error. That's where it's basically saying, Grant, actually, just see right there. It's saying that someone put XX in, and I can't convert that into a subtotal. Now we will learn later on how to trap that exception and deal with it. If I say exception, that's what this is. This is a runtime error. It's one type of exception. The program is taking exception to the idea that I put in a character string instead of, or a non-numeric character string instead of a number. So anyway, so that's what that's about. We can't really fix it at this point, but we will later. All right, so yeah, right. I just lost my place. Okay, yeah, all right, good deal. So we're so I think we're done, and let's just click on that, and I think at this point I'm just going to go stop. This is a little bit of the debugging, and we're going to definitely be looking in here for, and you will definitely be looking in here for stuff, because I don't think if I change this to 100, what will you do? All right, so go to 100, and then I think this guy, I'm going to continue, and it worked, I think. Okay, I'm not sure what it did, but we'll talk about that later. That's not really what I need to do now. I think what was happening is it was erroring, and it was already on its way out. So let's stop, and I'm going to pick up probably with probably basically number 10 or 11, and then finish the lab.